There are missions the military never writes down, and things soldiers encounter that no one ever believes. Story 1. I don't talk about my second tour in the Korangal. Not the firefights, not the IEDs. We all have those stories. It's the other thing. The thing from OP Vulture's Nest. We were a 4-man sniper team, perched on a rock shelf so high you could see the curvature of the earth, or so it felt. Our job was simple. Watch a known Taliban transit route through a narrow pass below. 3 days on, 3 days off. The first 48 hours were textbook boring. Cold rations, whispering into the radio, the endless gray and brown of the mountains. The third night, it changed. PFC Miller was on watch, and he nudged me awake. "Sarge, I got movement." "Can't PID it." I crawled to the scope. In the grainy green world of my night vision, I saw it. On the opposite ridge, maybe 600 meters out. It was a figure, tall and impossibly thin, standing stark still against the rock face. It wasn't wearing dishdasha or carrying an AK. It looked naked. Its limbs were too long, its posture rigid and unnatural. "What the hell is that?" I whispered. "Thermal up." Miller switched his optics. A pause. "Sarge, I got nothing." Thermal is dead cold. Just rock. I looked back through my own NVGs. It was still there. A solid, living shape that radiated no heat. My blood ran cold, and it had nothing to do with the mountain air. We watched it for an hour. It didn't move a muscle. Didn't even sway. It just stood there, facing our position as if it knew exactly where we were. We didn't report it. What would we say? "We have a visual on a non-thermal entity?" They'd pull us for psych eval before we could finish the sentence. When the sun finally broke, it was gone. The next rotation, we were hesitant to go back. But orders are orders. The first 2 nights were clear. We started to convince ourselves it was a trick of the light, a shared hallucination brought on by exhaustion. On the final night, it was back. This time, it was at the bottom of our perch, at the edge of the cliff. It was looking straight up at us, maybe 50 feet away. We all saw it. No NVGs needed. Just a silhouette against the stars, blacker than the surrounding darkness. It hadn't made a sound climbing the sheer rock face. No one moved. No one breathed. The air grew heavy, thick with a silence that felt ancient and predatory. Then, slowly, it raised one of its long, spindly arms and pointed. Not at any one of us, but at the empty space in our 4-man formation where Corporal Jensen should have been. Jensen hadn't come on this rotation. He'd been killed by a sniper in the valley a week earlier. We packed our gear in total silence, broke every rule about noise discipline, and scrambled down that mountain in the dark. We never went back to Vulture's Nest. We filed the report as a compromised position, enemy scouts spotted. We lied. Even now, 10 years later, I sometimes wake up sweating. I can still see that long, pale finger pointing at an empty spot, an accusation from a thing that had no heat, no name, and no business being in our world. Story 2. You hear stories in the VFW halls, the ones told after the 3rd beer when the bravado starts to crack. Most are about firefights, IEDs, or the buddies we lost. But some of us have other stories. The kind you don't tell the shrink because they'll just up your meds. Mine is from a short, unlogged deployment to a listening post in the Pesh Valley, Afghanistan. It wasn't on any map we were ever shown. Just 6 of us, a satellite dish, and a whole lot of rock. Our job was to monitor specific communications frequencies. Simple enough. The first week was fine. Boring, even. Then came the glitches in the audio feed. Late at night, between the squawks of static, we'd hear a voice. It wasn't Pashto or Dari. It sounded like old, crackling English, like something from a 1940s radio show. It would say things, disjointed phrases. "The sun is so cold here." Or, "They took my boots." We chalked it up to signal bounce, some weird atmospheric phenomenon. Command told us to ignore it. But the voice got clearer. It started saying names. One night it whispered, "Casey." Your mother's sick again. Casey's face went white. We didn't have outgoing communication. He hadn't spoken to his family in 2 months. It got worse. The voice would mimic our own. You'd be on watch, and you'd hear your squad leader, Ramirez, call for you from the perimeter darkness, even though you could see him snoring in his rack on the thermal scope. It would whisper things only you would know. The name of the girl who cheated on you in high school. The amount of money you owed a bookie back home. It was a special kind of terror. Not the hot, adrenaline-fueled fear of a firefight, but a cold, creeping dread that ate away at your sanity. It turned us against each other. Was that really Ramirez calling me? Or was it the voice? Did Peterson just mutter that insult under his breath? Or did I imagine it? We were a fire team, supposed to trust each other with our lives, but we started looking at each other with suspicion, with fear. The last night, the voice didn't whisper. It screamed. A long, agonizing wail that came from all our headsets at once, so loud it blew the speakers. Then, silence. Dead air. The next morning, a Chinook came for us, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. No explanation. The men in clean uniforms who debriefed us didn't ask about the mission. They asked about our psychological state. We all lied. We all said we were fine. They dismantled that post, I heard. Wiped it off the map, it was never on. But I still have the recordings. The brass never asked for them. Sometimes, I think about listening. But I'm afraid that if I do, I'll hear it whisper my name from the static, and I'll know it followed me home. Story 3. I don't talk about this. Not at the VA, not with the wife, not after 3 beers with the guys from my old unit. They'd just nod and say PTSD. But it isn't a memory. It's a stain. It was 2009, Korengal Valley. They called it the Valley of Death, and for good reason. My fire team was on overwatch, perched on a miserable excuse for a ridge we called the Goat's Perch. It was a moonless night, the kind of absolute black that swallows light. We were running PVS-14s, so the world was just a shimmering green and black ghost of itself. Hours of silence. Just the wind, the crackle of the radio, and the sound of your own breathing. Around 300, I was scanning the opposite ridge, a sheer rock face about 800 meters out. And I saw him, a figure, just standing there. On a part of the cliff a mountain goat would think twice about. My blood went cold. I keyed my mic, keeping my voice low. Hey, Miller. You seeing this? Opposite ridge, my 11 o'clock. Miller shifted his rifle, the IR laser a faint, invisible line in the dark. A pause. Got him. What the hell? No heat signature. He'd switched to his thermal scope. Nothing. On my NODS, a clear silhouette. On his thermals, just cold rock. That's impossible. Everything gives off heat. We watched for 10 minutes. The figure didn't move a muscle. It wasn't a local. It wasn't enemy. It was just there. Tall. Impossibly thin. Its stillness was the most terrifying part. It felt ancient. Then, its head turned. Not like a person. It snapped, a full 180 degrees, to face us. I couldn't see a face, just the shape of it in the green glow. I swear I felt its gaze slice through the darkness, right into my skull. A wave of pure primal dread washed over me. Not the fear of getting shot, but the fear of a sheep seeing a wolf for the first time. The fear of something you can't possibly fight. Miller made a choking sound next to me. The figure then took a step, not down, but sideways, into the solid rock. It just vanished. One moment it was there, the next, nothing. We never filed a report. What would we say? That we saw a ghost? That the valley itself had eyes? I left the army 2 years later, but that night, it never left me. Sometimes, when the house is dark and quiet, I'll catch a glimpse of a tall, thin silhouette in the corner of my eye. It's never there when I turn to look. Not fully. But I know it's watching. I think some things you see in combat aren't human, and they don't always stay behind when you come home.